Tere, labdien, labadiana, hi, hello, and welcome to an emergency podcast on the drone incidents that have been rattling the Baltic states, and perhaps even more importantly, a serious rhetorical escalation by the Russian side. First, the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, SVR, made a public statement claiming that Latvia has agreed to allow Ukraine launch drone attacks from its territory. And then Russia's ambassador to the United Nations, Vasily Nebenzia, repeated these allegations in the United Nations Security Council session. And he was directly threatening Latvia, saying that NATO membership does not protect countries accused of involvement in Ukrainian military activity. At the same time, we've had multiple air alerts across the Baltic countries. It has become a new normal. And people in Vilnius, for example, including the leadership of a country, directed to shelters in order to protect them from possible drone attacks. And in Estonia, a Romanian fighter jet, in a totally unprecedented way, shot down a stray Ukrainian drone. This all happening only in a matter of the last few days. And with me today are my very good friends and colleagues, Sanita Jemberga from Baltica in Latvia, and Migle Krancevičiūte from Siena in Lithuania. And I am Holger Roonemaa from Delfi, Estonia, the OCCRP, and of course the Baltic Flank. Now, Sanita, I know you as a calm and rational person who doesn't get shaken easily, and we are quite used to Russia's threats. But when I have been talking to you this week, you actually seemed a little bit rattled. What makes the Russian threats to be taken more seriously this time?
I think the level. Because we saw first time this propaganda line about the Baltics opening their skies for Ukrainian drones to attack Russia. We saw it in March, and we saw the regular spreading mechanism. It started in a Telegram channel MASH with 3 million people following, and immediately jumped to Kremlin television, which means it was a coordinated line that Baltics are allowing attack Russia from the territories. However, this week, United Nations Security Council is the next level, where you actually go and threaten the countries based on the reconnaissance reports alleged from your own security service. And there was one new element. It was not only us opening the skies for Ukrainian drones to fly through, there was an allegation of Ukrainian militaries being in our territory ready to pounce on Russia. I think the base for this was found in a Latvian statements when the drones crashed in oil depots. Ukrainians apologized and said, we can send you a specialists to help to deal with stray drones. And I think Russian propaganda took this and blew it into a kind of that we have the Ukrainian division whatsoever around us. So the level is rattling, and also the background, because we've had literally alert every day, sometimes two of them. We had these two drones crashing in a city. So people in that part of Latvia is already a bit upset and rattled about the whole thing. Kids are passing exams. It's the end of the year, so exams has been interrupted. All kinds of level of life is interrupted there. So that kind of gives you the background. Then you have the direct threat in Security Council, and then there's the place we are, the place we live next to Russian border. And on the first day, when Russians said it, that we are allowing to do this, Foreign Minister came out with a statement, President came out with a statement on Twitter kind of saying, this is all lies. But yesterday he was forced to make another statement saying, this is not a wartime, but this is not a peacetime either. And the purpose of Russia is, first of all, to rattle us, to, as he said, directly intimidate us because of the need to explain to our own population that they're not achieving anything in the war in Ukraine at the moment, to diminish our support of Ukraine, saying, you're putting us in a kind of threatening position. And thirdly, also to give a doubt to our NATO partners like are you gone completely crazy and allowing this, without notifying everyone? So that's a reason why I may feel a bit more rattled than usual. But in my case, it's like Holger, like one level, and I know that I have to calm myself down, as everybody else in this country, because this is just a threat, but it gives unpleasant feeling.
Yeah, it is just a threat, and that we, as I said, that we are used to such threats in general. But also, like people like Sergei Shoigu or Nikolai Patrushev have in recent weeks stepped up similar threats. So it's no longer anymore like, these regular war propagandists on whatever Russian TV or a Telegram channel. It is still a little bit wider. Migle, how does it resonate in Lithuania, and what were the consequences of all the alerts in Vilnius, which eventually led to the prime minister of a country apologizing in front of all the people in Lithuania? What's going on there?
Well, there was a lot of fuss around yesterday's drone attack for sure. It was first time during this full-scale invasion in Ukraine when we Lithuanians were asked to go seek shelter. So it was the first time, and our people in security and government, they all are taking this as good first lesson on how we can improve our mechanisms to work better, because people who were seeking shelter, they were faced with locked doors sometimes, so there were some nasty errors from that side. So we kind of took it as a good lesson, and we for sure know that it's about to continue and nothing's gonna change, and it's gonna intensify. And people who have been involved with the Ukrainian war and has more information on how Russia is doing such kind of threats and manipulations and all kinds of hybrid attacks. So they are well aware what's going on. But civilians, there have been some panicking around. There have been lots of what to do, how to act. So yeah, we took it as a good lesson how to improve and prepare for future. But on the other hand, I'm thinking okay, so this is us getting used to threats, and my kind of question to myself and to us as a nation is, how much of this can we tolerate and how much should we tolerate before it's too far, it's gone too far, because Russia has no limits, we know that for sure. So are we not by getting used to it, are we not putting ourselves in more vulnerable position when you tolerate the abuser for so long that everything starts to seem to blur that maybe it's not an abuse, maybe it's just new normal. So I think this new normal, it's not good for us.
It's not
I think
normal.
It's very interesting. Yeah, exactly. But the new normal, which shouldn't be normal. I must admit that I have lost a little bit count of how many incidents we've already had in Estonia. That the first time it started was back in early autumn last year. But now, when Estonia didn't even understand that any drone had wandered into Estonian airspace and fallen down in a field somewhere. They only discovered it a day later or so. And now, over the last 2 months, since mid-March, when Ukraine stepped up attacks on the oil ports that Russia has in the Baltic Sea, it has become quite regular. The good side of this is that the country has become better prepared. Now we're starting to have confidence that we can actually identify the drones, we can actually trace them, and as this week's events also prove that we can actually shoot them down when needed. But at the same time, it does give a lot of fuel to Russian propaganda, and as they are Ukrainian drones that we keep on seeing here, and then what force us to take shelter or receive the alert messages on our phones. I am a little bit afraid that it gives a fertile ground for Russian propaganda to actually have an effect. What is your opinion on this?
I think there are two separate issues, and One comes from Migle's last sentence and one comes from your question. I think we accept it, at least here, as a new normal while those drones are Ukrainian and while the people are not suffering directly, costing lives. Because we say, okay, we understand. Those drones are here because of the Russian war, Ukrainians are attacking, and we are just a collateral damage. So I think that we at the moment kind of tolerate, but also I think there is some negotiation going on with Ukrainians that you have to do something about this, because otherwise, people may not be so happy about it. And the second thing is, Holger, I think, if it's a Russian drone attack, as the Poland saw, that's a totally different game, because now we know from this week that they can be identified, that the jets can shut them down, that we have other systems which work, but that would be something which I would say we wouldn't accept as a normal. But of course, there's a third thing which has to be said openly. We don't know about many things. And one of those things is, you say you're losing count of the alarms, how many you get. Migle got her first yesterday, congratulations. I've heard, I think, 9 in May alone. So there is a fact that more of those drones are falling into Latvian territory or crashing into Latvian territory than it is actually in yours. And me as a Latvian, I do ask myself, what does that mean? This fact that we have so many, and people call me saying, there are many in Russia and Belarus as well, because you just don't know about them. Fine, but I know about mine. I know about yours. I see this escalation in rhetorics from Russian side, and I think the next level of propaganda is already coming, because if you look at the Facebook groups close to the border from those towns, it goes like, this is our government getting us into this war, Those drones should hit Riga, because then maybe they wake up then and come and protect us. That's an old Russian propaganda line, that your government is forgotten about you. You live at that eastern border, no one really cares about you. And now they are kind of experiencing that propaganda from one side. And there is a reality that those drones keep falling around them. So I think there is a very potent mix of the propaganda and the real worries on the ground. And the only thing which we can do at this moment is, I think, to be as calm as possible and go by rationale. What we know, what's being done, what the state needs, etc. Otherwise, you can't live in this kind of nervousness, because that's exactly what the propaganda target is. Just make us all nervous, weak and questioning, I think.
How is it seen on Lithuanian side, Migle? Because, Tallinn and Riga are much more further away from this possible corridor where the drone attacks might be misguided or sent to. But Vilnius, on the other hand, the Vilnius area is pretty much on the route. How is it seen in Lithuania?
There has been some speculations that those Ukrainian drones are actually launched from Belarus, but that's not proven to be right. But, there has been some talks from the experts of war saying that, Russians could be doing that just to divert, just to use for their propaganda needs. So we do have multiple different opinions. The media is trying to portray it as it is, as this is Russia's hybrid war attack, and that's that, and that's it. But of course, we, as Sanita has said, we have a lot of people who are on the verge of, whether they want to believe the media, but Russia is doing everything in their power to make people not want to believe media, to discredit us as a source of information, to make everything just to add one piece of right information and to wrap everything in false information. It's one of the like very classical propaganda techniques, and people are falling for it. So yeah, I would agree with Sanita that we have to, as media people, we have to do everything in our power to just spread the right information, have one correct angle, and just be as prepared as possible. And calmness is strength, because panic is very good friend of Russia. So we just have to take responsibility and be calm as possible. And looking at my circle, I can see that this needs improvement. Because yesterday from multiple people I got messages like, should we be worried? Is it already a war? And so on. And like me, myself, I've been to Ukraine like 4 times already. I have like very different mindset. One drone is nothing, but it has been multiple drones already in Lithuania. And one actually just landed in Army's training field. So we don't know if that was coincidence or not, or deliberate. But this is actually showing how unprepared we are. And we definitely don't want to be in war, but we're not doing enough to avoid war and to win this in Ukraine.
And of course, as journalists, we also need to be critical of how our local authorities are able to intercept, trace the drones, and of course as well alert the civil society regarding like calmly, but also like in a rational way of what needs to be done. One thing that I've been wondering about is that like why are they now rhetorically hitting Latvia out of all the 3 Baltic countries? Because it could be like any, but is it because you have, first of all, you had a government collapsing, the country is already in a sort of a political crisis, you have elections coming up this autumn, parliamentary elections. Can it be just that they see some sort of a fertile ground that their propaganda and their threats can have an effect this time? Sanita?
I think you're partially right, because we are in a vulnerable position. We don't have a government in place. It was kind of dismissed. It resigned because of its all political problems, but the official explanation was, firing of defense minister because of not ability to intercept the drones. Also, I think we do understand now that not all drones can be intercepted. So from one end, we are kind of in a wobbly political situation, so more difficult to respond to it. But on another end, it's always been, and I'm not happy about it, but it's true, it's always been said that Latvia is the weakest link in the Baltics. One of the reasons is that we do have the largest Russian minority from all 3 Baltic states, and if you, Holger, have problem in kind of one place, then our place with the problems is much bigger. It's like the whole border area is questionable in terms of where it actually stands. So I think it's a combination of the biggest Russian minority, kind of seen as the weaker than the others, and politically unstable. But, to be frank, I don't think it matters that much. If they want to try these things, they will pick any of our 3, because, it's basically one territory. It's just 3 different nations and 3 different languages. So I think it's our bad luck this time, in a way. But we get more drones than you do. And we get UN Security Council threats, which you didn't. But at the same time, from outside perspective, Baltics is a Baltics. It's a one place, and it's an,
And Russia treats us as one for sure, but Russia doesn't have specific plans for Latvia or Lithuania or Estonia.
No, you can't. You can't really occupy one and leave the others. It's just it's all of it.
Well, I do think we are still a few steps away from being occupied. And that said, there are a few good signs as well. At least the incidents in Estonia have made the entire system of how to respond like much better. We started out really clumsily in how to warn our society about attacks. We did many mistakes where the warning systems weren't working. They were too aggressive in their voice, etc. But now, this week, we could see that it was almost working as it should be. And another thing which is a positive sign is that even when Russia brought up the allegations against the totally baseless allegations against Latvia in the United Nations Security Council, the international reaction was, I think it was good. Mark Rutte, the General Secretary of NATO, Ursula von der Leyen, even the US deputy ambassador to the United Nations stood firmly behind Latvia and behind NATO, behind the European Union. So I think on that side we have made good progress. That the message was clear to Russia that keep your hands off, and that there is no ground for such allegations. Now to wrap this up, so Sanita and Migle, what are the things to keep an eye out on? What are the indicators that you would advise our readers, our audience to keep an eye on to see where this topic will develop in the next few weeks and the next few months? Sanita, let's start with you.
I think you will see the dance of one step forward, two steps back. Russian rhetorics will be increased and heated up with every single incident with the new lies. We will continue defending ourselves and getting better at it. And I think that's how it's going to go until the end of Russian-Ukrainian war. It will be just new thing every month.
So as Migle is somewhere in a Lithuanian monastery, and apparently the internet connection in monasteries in Lithuania is not so good. So she is dropping out of a podcast. But I think that my conclusions for this would be that, first of all, paradoxically, we will keep on hearing about more incidents the better Ukraine gets in the drone warfare. That's the paradoxical situation about this, because the reason why the drones are strayed into the Baltic airspace right now is because Ukraine has so much more power to hit Russian targets. Secondly, what the Russian propaganda will be saying or will be doing, that we will need to keep an eye really closely on what the high-level Kremlin officials, Putin's direct immediate circle, will be continuing to say. If Sergei Shoigu, if Nikolai Patrushev, if Sergei Naryshkin, the head of the SVR, and so on, continue their direct aggressive attacks or threats against any or all of the Baltic countries, I think this is something that we will need to take more seriously than earlier. But still, it's early days for that. And before that, whenever you receive an alert on your phone, it is still better to take cover and then to remain indoors until the issue has been solved. I thank you, my good colleagues and then friends from Latvia, Lithuania, for joining us today, and all of the audience. Thank you, and let's see you again next time.